Have you ever been someplace that was oversold? We've been there. We were pretty disappointed by an experience we had in Arizona.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with Wanderlust.
Welcome to the Travel FOMO podcast. My name is Jamin Houghton, and I am here with the reason that we did not go to a national park this time and instead went to this place because it's going to be so amazing and incredible and just blow our minds. Hillary.
Yeah. That's what I thought. That's true. It was all my idea, and it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, exactly.
But this season, we are in the middle of our national park season. So far, we have taken you to Yosemite, Bryce Canyon, Zion, and now we are on our way to Arches National Park, but we're stopping off in a place managed by the National Park Service, Lake Powell in the Horseshoe Bend area of Arizona.
That's right. And in the coming weeks, we're going to go to Arches and Mesa Verde and the Rockies. So there's still more to this season to come.
Yes.
And a lot more national parks ahead. But in this episode, we're traveling from Zion. We're staying in the Page, Arizona area. And that is the city that's really kind of the hub of Horseshoe Bend, Lake Powell, Antelope Canyon, all of that in northern Arizona, kind of on the northern border of Arizona meets Utah. And it's something I'd been looking forward to for a really long time. I just didn't know enough, did I? So Page, Arizona is a town that is right there in the hub of it all. In fact, our RV site was technically in Utah. And then every time we would drive into Page, Arizona, we would experience a time change, which was really funny. That's literally how close it is to the border of Utah.
Yeah, thanks Arizona for not participating in daylight savings time and all your other time weirdness.
No, it's funny though. I just never expected to actually deal with that on a regular basis. And you could see how the locals would have to deal with that, because we would walk into a coffee shop thinking we had 2 hours to hang out.
Yeah.
And be like, oh no, we're closing in 55 minutes. And you're like, oh, bummer. Okay. But the Lake Powell is actually really unique. There are a ton of really skinny extensions to the lake. So you can kind of think of it like a hand with all these really long winding fingers that are expanding out. And unlike a lot of lakes, there aren't a lot of shorelines on Lake Powell, which is really interesting because instead the lake is actually kind of found within the walls of a really steep canyon.
Yeah.
Which is so cool to see. We only saw it from up high, really, for the most part.
Right.
But it's incredible to see from up there. I can't imagine what it's like from down there on a boat, because that would be incredible. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, how would you not get lost within all of those really tall walls and all of those little fingers going out all over, the lower half of the state, basically.
Right. It is pretty incredible to see, and so different than any lake that I'd ever been to.
Yeah.
And you're right. All those little channels and stuff, I don't know how you don't get lost in it and figure out okay, this is the one where I belong.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I found out, I kind of pieced it all together a little bit more later on, was that it's the same body of water that it leads to the Glen Canyon Dam, which we saw at that point, and then it goes to Horseshoe Bend, which we saw, and then later on it becomes the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. So literally this is the canyons that are kind of leading up to the Grand Canyon. So that's kind of interesting to think about it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is it is really cool. When we arrived, we got to where we were staying was actually in Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. It was one of the Lake Powell resorts and marinas. We were actually in the Waweep RV campground. So it's really near the boat docks and some swimming areas. So kind of a good place to be.
I feel like every time we say that word, we pause afterwards because we're it was in the Waweep.
Yeah, I hope.
RV, is that
right? I hope that's how it goes.
Because even in the video, I feel like I say Waweep RV park.
Yeah, the question mark.
Right.
At the end.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know. But the thing about it was just so hot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no shade anywhere, no trees, no nothing. And our Airstream, being an older RV, the air conditioner is able to keep up a lot of times in a lot of places and does really well. But it was just too much there. It was triple digit heat and the sun was just beating down on us. So as soon as we arrived, we were like, we've got to do something. I remember you took the tarp that you usually put over your bike and you put it over the back window of the bedroom just to keep the sun out.
Super ghetto.
Oh, it was just so hot. And like you said, I think if you're able to get on the lake, that's really cool. But where we were, it was just blazing hot.
Yeah, and not a tree or shade in sight. They don't create, I would expect in a place like this where there's no trees, they would at least create shade structures. And that's really, they just kind of deal with it.
It's just this is where hot hangs out.
Yeah.
That's why no one's here.
I know. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was pretty rough. In fact, so much so that we figured, okay, we're not up for spending the money on a boat, but we should go check out this lake because it's so hot.
Yeah.
And we took Maggie swimming in the lake, and swimming might not really be the right word because it was more like standing in the water.
Yeah, she doesn't do water really well.
No.
She loves rivers, oddly enough. She loves to wade into a river and get her feet wet.
Yeah.
But if you're asking her to get into a lake, no, not going to do it. Swimming pool, definitely not going to jump into water. It's just so weird, really.
She likes running water too. So a river is running water, a sprinkler. She loves that stuff, but nothing
doesn't mind
deep.
getting wet in a sprinkler, but heaven forbid you jump in a pool.
So funny. Oh, man. But so Horseshoe Bend was really kind of the piece of this that I thought was going to be so incredible.
Yeah.
And actually, I will say it lived up to the hype.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, it really is. And it did surprise me in that I imagined this really intense hike and you get to the top of this cliff and there's this breathtaking view but it's not that sexy, really.
Right.
It's basically like a rest stop on a highway, which is actually really cool because that means it's really accessible to a lot of people that wouldn't normally maybe get to see a site that beautiful. So when you pull up, there's a man who's working the entrance booth and he'll ask you to pay $10 to park there, and you drive in and you might see a couple tour buses like we did at 6:30 in the morning. I could not believe at 6:30 in the morning there would be tour buses.
I was shocked by that. I thought there'd be a few early birds like us because we've seen that on hikes.
Yeah.
We go on hikes early and you see a few people out there, more hardcore people. I was not expecting a bus.
I know. And that early in the morning is crazy. But, like I said, the good part is that it is just a really short walk. I wouldn't even call it a hike almost. It's this nice, easy trail that you walk. We think it's a 1.5 mile round trip.
Right. Yeah.
To go there and back. So it's really doable for a lot of people, which makes it awesome. And that would be why it's so Instagrammable as well, because it's very accessible.
Yeah, everyone can get there.
Yeah, and the good part was it delivered. It was just as beautiful as any picture you may have seen.
Yeah, it's something really cool to see in person. I feel like with a lot of that stuff that's super Instagrammable, it doesn't really, when you see it in person, you're like, oh, it's kind of touched up and maybe this wasn't as grandiose or as big. I feel like it was bigger than I expected.
Yeah, it was actually a little scarier, maybe steeper, and it felt a little more dangerous taking the photos. My legs were a little shakier than I expected, and it was a little, and I kept being get higher, get closer, and you were this is it. I'm not stepping off this cliff for your photo, Hillary.
Yeah.
So just tip for others, bring a selfie stick and then you can get those great photos without having to, take any risk because it's really not worth it. And you'll know when you're there, when you look down and you see a tiny little boat like so tiny. You can
Yeah.
hardly see it. Like we're zooming in with our cameras to see it.
Right.
And even then it was too grainy of a photo to even really capture. And like kayaks, you could barely see them out there, just this tiny little speck. And that is like the only way of knowing just how big and grand this really is, if that makes sense.
It was really impressive. I'm really glad that we did it. I think, like you said, it's really kind of a rest stop, and I think someone could easily clip it on their way someplace.
Yes,
and it would be perfect.
That'd be ideal.
And it doesn't take much time either.
No, yeah, no big deal. But one thing we did not do was Antelope Canyon, and I think we intended to.
Yeah, it was definitely on our list of things to do, and we had done like surface level research.
Yeah.
In planning for our trip. We just had so many things to plan and so many things to coordinate that a lot of times we identified the things we wanted to do and decided we're going to go do these things, but maybe we won't fully look into them right now.
Right.
And this was one of them. And so on our way in, we start doing some research and we find out oh, you can't just go there and hike. I kind of assumed it would be a national park.
Right.
Or, a state park or something like that. And we would go and pay a fee to get in and hike. And we would get to hike through Antelope Canyon, see all these cool canyons and take some great pictures and get some good footage for our YouTube video and things like that. And come to find out, it's not that at all.
Yeah.
The only way to go in is to be a part of a tour.
The only way to go in, which is crazy.
Yeah. You cannot access it by yourself. You have to go as part of a tour. The tours are crazy expensive. We found some that were around $60-$70, but they were all sold out. Everything that we could find that was available was over $100 a person. And it's a 1-hour tour.
Yeah.
They don't let you video.
Right. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah. They do not let you take video. They let you take pictures, but only at certain spots. And we found out that they actually take you to certain spots and they bring in lights and things to light up the canyon walls, which make all the photos of it look the way that they look. And that just seemed...
It's just pretty staged.
Yeah. That seemed a little like Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want to pay $100 for something that we can't take video of.
Yeah.
And you thought about going, and I encourage you if you really wanted to go, to go. But I think even you were like, I don't know that it's worth
that
over $100 to see something that's that's staged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That it's not really real, and you can't hike through it yourself. You can't experience it yourself. You can't kind of do that thing, we had come from, we had just come from Zion, where we had, you had done Angel's Landing.
And the Narrows.
We had done the Narrows together.
So extreme, but so real.
Yeah, and it's just incredible to be part of that, which if you haven't listened to that episode, or especially if you haven't gone and watched that YouTube video.
Oh my gosh.
Go back and watch Zion. It's crazy.
It literally was the hardest video I've ever edited because I felt like I was just going to fall off the mountain all over again. Oh, so scary.
Yeah, you want to go check that out.
Yeah.
But, I really wanted that kind of experience. And we knew this is not going to give us that. And we're on a budget. We're trying to make all of our money last for an entire year. So that was a challenge, and this just wasn't cutting it. So Antelope Canyon got booted.
The other thing that I had heard is that they haul in sand and they keep the canyon to kind of keep the canyon exactly at the levels it is and everything, keep it the way it is, which I think is really interesting. And I don't know how I feel about that, because then you're not letting it evolve naturally like you would with a real national park or something like that. You wouldn't do anything to change it.
Right. I feel like that's sort of the spirit of the national parks and things, is to try to observe nature while not interfering with it as much as possible.
Right.
And I feel like initially we interfered with it a lot. And over the last 10 years have kind of really pulled that back to say, okay, we need to stop interacting with wildlife, and we need to really preserve these places and let nature kind of take its course and introduce the natural animals that we ran out. And those kinds of things. I feel like this is going the other direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So a minute ago, I said something about like that you can't, the only way to go into Antelope Canyon is through a tour guide. And I think like that's technically true, but I have heard that some people rent a kayak and they kayak for 2 hours to get there, which obviously we were not up for that.
No, we do kayak some. We recently went to Grand Cayman and we kayaked to Starfish Point. I think that was
exhausting.
about a 15-minute kayak, and that was definitely our limit.
Exactly. But speaking of water, one of the more interesting things that happened to us, and this has nothing to do with the park really, but our water. Do you remember the water at our RV park getting shut off?
Yes.
With no warning or anything, and the temperatures are well above 100 every day.
Yeah.
Like consistently. And we have our dog, us, like the need for water is a real thing in those kind of temperatures.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm just like, we don't have water. What is going on? And I walk outside and see that there's some guys doing construction out there, and I talked to them and I was like, hey, like we don't have water. What's up? And they're like, oh yeah, we had to turn it off. And I was like, yeah, that would have been awesome to know in advance. I would have like gotten some water, like we would have prepared for that. And anyway, they're like, and then I was afraid like we're gonna have to move RV sites. We're like one of 3 people in this RV park,
right? And
they're gonna turn off the water and make us move to another site. Like this is so stupid. But fortunately, it didn't last for the whole day or anything. And yeah, but the whole thing here was really interesting because at this park, Waweep RV Park, they charged for everything.
Yeah.
Like it was like $2 to take a shower there. It was crazy hot, and they didn't provide any sort of shade in such extreme environment, which was just a lot. And then we wanted to go swimming because they had a pool there, but it was like, how much was it? It was something crazy.
I think it was $75 for
$75.
the convenience package that got you access to the pool. And that was for your entire stay, which I guess if you're staying there a long time,
it could be worth it.
That makes sense. But we were staying there 2 nights and we were only going to be there one day. And so for us, we're like, no, we're not going to pay $75. We essentially could have like paid for another night.
Yeah.
Staying in an RV park somewhere that would let us swim in a pool.
Right. Exactly. A different RV park that had a free pool and free showers. Yeah. I just thought that was kind of interesting, but overall, it was nice. It's just that there was just a lot of add-ons. It felt like the whole area, and I mean the whole community in general.
Right.
The greater community, like they just really milked you for money, and their whole economy was really trying hard to survive out there in the desert,
Yeah, I feel like, remember when we were in England and we would like go to castles that were owned by the crown, and it was sort of, you pay your entry, you could go in, they would have like little stuff here and there, but then you would go to castles that were owned privately, and it was like a theme park, and everything costs like $10 more. I feel like this was theme park-esque, where like everything's an extra charge and it's sort of crazy and it's just everywhere.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I even remember we were so hot and trying to keep the trailer cool, and we were like, you know what? We've said no to a lot of things and not spent money. We're going to allow ourselves to spend a little bit of money, and we're going to go into town and go to the Grand Canyon Brewery and have like a nice, cool meal in the evening, and we'll hang out for a little bit, have a couple brews, and then
it'll be
come
nice
back.
And cool for Maggie.
Yeah, like come back. It'll be dark. By then the air conditioner will have cooled the trailer off a little bit. It'll be better. So we look up this place. Yep, it's dog friendly. Good to go. Load up Maggie, show up, and the staff there was great. We got really great service. The food there was good. The brews were good. No complaints there. But the only dog friendly area is this like patio that they have. and they have 6 roaring fires going.
You guys, blazing fires
Like,
in the middle of the summer.
insane.
Yeah.
And they sit us at this table right next to one of the fires. And
keep in mind, all of the tables are next to fires because there's like 6.
yeah, there's nowhere to get away from them. I've got this fire right behind my back, and I can feel the heat on my back.
I could feel the heat on the other side of the table. I'm not even kidding. It was so wild.
It was the ultimate sign of tomorrow morning we're hooking up the trailer and we're driving away from this place. I couldn't get away fast enough. And again, people were great. Like, no real fault of the brewery other than like, bro, it's
like, turn the flame down.
Yeah.
It was a propane. That was the really funny part is I kept thinking, like, I was so tempted to be like, hey, dude, can you just like notch these down a little bit? Because the ambiance, I totally get it. Like, I totally get it. It adds great ambiance. But like, this was like, I mean, a good 12-inch fire, like a good foot tall fire.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, like, you could just, turn it down where it's just kind of like there, adding some, some mood. And instead, it was adding a ton of heat. It was crazy.
It's insane. And I remember looking at my phone and seeing that it was 93 degrees. And this, like, fire is just roaring. Which, if you would like to see me being perturbed at these flames, you can go check out our YouTube channel. There's footage of me sitting next to the flames, being not really happy to be there anymore.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. We were just tired of the heat.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, we were over it.
A little disgruntled, and probably hadn't gotten a lot of sleep due to the heat either.
Yeah, well, and it's tough too, coming from, like, we'd had a great time in Bryce.
Yeah.
Zion is mind-blowing. If you've never been in Zion National Park, it's got to be one of the ones that you put on your must-do list.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And then to come from, like, and before that, Yosemite.
Yeah.
So, and before that, Big Sur.
Gosh, yeah.
So we had been in some, like, amazing places, stayed in great spots, and really coming off of that to, like, this more, like, commercialized atmosphere just was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, for sure. And to feel like you're paying more for less was kind of like crazy.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing that we both agreed was incredible, and you can go see this on the YouTube video, is the morning sunrise is so incredible.
Yeah, beautiful.
So beautiful. I mean, you're talking purple, orange, blue, all the colors are in this. I mean, it's so beautiful. And that last morning, we got up early and went for a run. And it was actually nice and cool in the mornings. So that's like something to consider, is just like really leverage those mornings when you're there. And that was so great.
I would have, in our scenario, I would have probably skipped like Lake Powell and Horseshoe Bend. If you can't tell, I would have skipped. But I do think that area could be really enjoyable. I think if you're driving through, definitely stop at Horseshoe Bend. Do it.
Yeah.
And Lake Powell is really interesting. And if you want to see it, I would just say save up and like pay the money to stay on a houseboat or rent a boat.
Yes, a houseboat. Do a houseboat.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
And they do them there. Like, there's a bunch of them. So there's a lot of options if you want to do that and be out on that water in the lake and see it. When we were there, the water levels were really low. I think last year they got a lot more rain, and it's kind of back up a little bit, so even better. But I would go back and stay on the lake and be able to be in the water, cool off whenever you want. I think you could really, really enjoy it that way.
Yeah.
I think in all of our travels, every place that we've gone where we've been like, oh man, they just didn't work, most of the time it's because we were doing it incorrectly.
That's true. Yeah. A lot of the places. Yeah. Great point.
And so I think this is one of those where, like, if we had saved up and spent extra money to be on the lake, do that kind of
Do
stuff,
it right. Yeah.
then I think we would have a very different experience.
Yeah. And I think it would be, to your point about the boat, I think doing that with a bunch of friends on a houseboat where you all stay on the boat, you like enjoy a night or two out there, and then like, you know, you've got the slide or whatever going down, you know, into the water. Like that would be so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, I would say not a lot of bang for your buck when it's all said and done.
I think it's hot.
Yeah,
That's
that is
my
hot.
thoughts on it. It's
Thoughts
hot.
on thoughts on Horseshoe Bend and Lake Powell. It's hot. Yes, for sure.
Well, you're going to want to make sure that you are subscribed and staying with us because like Hillary said earlier, we are headed to Moab, Utah and to Arches National Park. Moab, epic place, very popular. If you're a van lifer, I think you have to go there first as your like first stop ever. But we really enjoyed our time there. We liked Arches, and as always, like there's a little bit of drama, so you'll want to stay tuned for that.
Ooh, is it travel drama, Jamin?
Oh, how did you guess? How did you guess that something would go wrong on a travel day?
That's how it is. Okay, guys, you can find us out there on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And YouTube is where you can go to find the videos that really complement these podcasts and give you a visual of the things that we're talking about, which can be so helpful. So we encourage you to go out there and check it out.
Yeah, and connect with us those ways, drop us comments, something like that. But if you want to reach out to us more directly, you can reach us at travelfomopodcast@gmail.com. If you want to send us a question about RVing or national parks or even travel to Europe, we'd be happy to let you know what we learned through the School of Hard Knocks and maybe point you in the direction of some other good information. So happy to do that if we can help at all, and let us know what's going on with you so that we can let the rest of the Travel FOMO family know.
That's right. Okay, guys, that is it. Next up is Moab, Utah and Arches National Park. So until then, life is short.
Wander well.